All right. Hey, everyone. It says we're live, that we're on, so that is good. Today, I definitely would like to talk to you about your teens and dating. And when our teens are in a relationship, there are signs that you, as the parent, okay, should be looking for that give you some red flags, that give you some little signals, that sometimes put a little in your gut that you're like, wow, you know what? I don't know if this is right. I don't know if I should let them do this. Um, because you kind of feel within yourself that, wow, okay, is my teen headed in a danger zone here? And what do I do about it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay. And so, first off, I'm just going to flat out just tell you I say the number one sign, the number one red flag is this right here. Your teen gets into a relationship, and really, this doesn't even have to be that they're in a relationship, because this red flag, this sign, still qualifies. Okay, not just because they're in a relationship or they're not in a relationship, but here it is. Okay, is how affectionate is your teen with this newfound love of theirs? Um, because sometimes you will see teens, with their arm around each other and they're holding hands, they're making out, like, oh my golly, for real. How many times have you been to the movie as the adult and you have seen the teenagers in the back on the top making out? Puke. Okay, now what if you turned around and that was your child, your teenager back there making out? Oh my golly, right? I don't even have to tell you what you'd probably do. Just some ninja moves instantly would be coming over your brain. So, if you want to help prevent some of that stuff, okay, I'm going to give you some little things that you can do as the parent. But first, I want you to pay attention to some of these warning signs that I'm going to be giving you, okay? Within that one little thing that I just said, how affectionate are they? Okay. So, in the midst of that one thing, how affectionate is your teen to, again, that newfound love? Okay. Are they just kissing all the time, or just handsy? And they're just hugging all the time, sitting on each other's lap, and they really just like can't get enough of each other physically. That to me is probably, I would say, the number one thing that will actually lead your teen into a sexual relationship faster, quicker than any other thing, is your teen being so attracted physically to each other, to the other person. Uh, that's going to push them into a sexual relationship. All right. So when I'm talking about red flags, um, where does your teen fall in the fact and the emotional state of them being so overly hands on? All right. So just kind of think about that. If they've just gotten to a relationship, maybe they've never even been in a relationship before. So you're really like, oh my gosh, what do I even do? Or they've been in several relationships and there hasn't really been too much concern. But now maybe they've gotten to a relationship, even though they've had maybe several relationships prior to the one they're in. But now this one seems to be a little bit different, that they seem to be a little more touchy feely, a little more really liking that person. So now you need to have a different conversation with your teen. If you've never had any sort of conversation with your teen about how to be in a relationship, about what to expect, that what you expect, so to speak, okay, from your teen being in a relationship, because if you don't have this conversation, then they're left to figure this out themselves. So they see you maybe as the parent being very affectionate because, hey, you're married, you should be, okay. And if you've been together, maybe you have children, maybe you're not married, all right, and your teen is now trying to figure out, well, what do I do when I'm with this person that I really like? And just sometimes within days, weeks, or even a few months in, they've moved really, really fast and you don't even know what to do. So something you definitely have to do, okay? Number one is, yeah, you need to have a conversation, okay? Like, whoa, all right, hey, we need to kind of put the brakes here. And because I think you're moving just a little too fast in this newfound love that you have. So you need to kind of bring some of that to their attention, all right? Because you know what? They may not really even know, and they do not really understand that the more you're doing in a relationship, then where that's actually leading them. So that's something that they need to become aware of. A conversation you can have too is if you've never talked about sex before marriage, that could be a really good starter. Hey, what's your plan for that? Do you plan? Do you think that you should have sex out of marriage? Do you think it's okay? What's your thought about that? Really have that kind of conversation. And when you're having a conversation, this doesn't mean you have to get all mad. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you think that. Where did you get that information from? What are you even thinking about? What makes you even act like that? Okay? Like you got to be calm. You might feel like that inside, but you cannot show that on the outside because you want to have a conversation. You want to connect with your teen and let them talk with you. All right. So that's number one. You need to have a conversation. All right. About where they stand, where you stand, what you think, where both of you have this conversation and where you come to an agreement about where it is that you stand. All right. So in the midst of this dating and they're being touchy feely, and now they have these emotions that they haven't had before. Now, what is your conversation going to be? Okay. Because you do need to have something. Because number two, if you turn a blind eye and you just act like, oh, you know what? Yep. It's not happening. I'm just going to ignore that because I don't know what to do. You cannot ignore it, okay? Because when you ignore a situation, you're giving a green light to the situation. So your teen needs to know where you stand. Your teen needs to hear from you, okay? The other person in the relationship, it's okay to have conversation with them as well. Like, hey, this is what we do in our house. This is where we um, these are things that we've talked about in our home. So you need to think about what you want to say. Write it down, okay? And I'm going to say that all the time. So you're going to hear me as you watch videos with me, you're going to hear me say that quite a bit, okay? Write things down. Whether it's in your phone, whether it's actually with the pen and pad, write some things down. Get a notebook that you just kind of have for yourself with like teen topics now that you have a teenager, teen things that you need to have in one place so that you can go back to this because it's really going to help you, especially if you just have like maybe a preteen and you got a lot of years in that teenage span, or whether or not like your teen has never been um, maybe they're 16, 17 years old and they've never been in a relationship and now this is a new ball game and you don't know what to do, okay? Write things down because you still will be able to go back to that. All right? So again, talk to your teen, talk with your teen, think about the things where your standards are within your home, what you would want them to have within a dating relationship, and what are the boundaries. All right. So I know some parents will say um, that we just talk to them all the time about, like, because someone they knew that was pregnant and had a child was a dad, was a parent at the age of 15. So then they say that, often, hey, unless you want to be a parent, unless you want to be a dad, unless you want to be a mom, then you need to pay attention to what I'm saying to you as the parent because um, it's important for you to know that you could be a mommy or a daddy. All right. And really, it takes one time, doesn't it? No, I'm not saying that because your teen is holding hands and you're like, oh my gosh, those are not the things that we do in our family. They're going to get pregnant. Okay. I'm not even saying that. All right. But for real, no, start writing down some boundaries that you would have when my teen dates. Here are boundaries that I would like to have in my home. These are things that I would like to have. And then you write them down, you think about them things, and then you talk to your teen about it. All right. So if you haven't had that conversation, do that, get some boundaries, write them down, and then talk with your teen. Because whether your teen is dating right now or not, that's something you still need to be thinking about. All right. And then you're talking with your teen about these things on a regular basis. And again, in that relationship thing, the more that they're kissing, hugging, being touchy feely, arms around, just physical touch. Again, like I said, that to me is the number one relationship that will get them into a sexual relationship is how physically attracted they are. So when they're just touchy and doing all those things, um, you need to then put the brakes on that. Hey, son. Hey, daughter. I know that you really like this person, but I just need to give you some warnings that Um, you guys can hold hands, you can sit by each other, but I feel uncomfortable when you're so close together, when you're arm in arm and you're sitting on each other's laps and you guys have just been dating for like a week. So I'm uncomfortable with that. Um, be okay with talking like that with your teen, all right? But again, you got to pay attention to how your attitude is and the way you're saying this, all right? Do not talk to them out of an anger. Now, I'm not saying you don't have the right to be angry with things with your teen because you do. You're the parent. But when you're angry all of the time, your teen is not going to listen to what you have to say. It's going to be, yeah, okay, whatever, sure. And then they're going to turn around and just do it anyway. All right. So, another thing that you would want to look out for as they start dating and they start getting to this relationship, because you got to remember, teens work in like dog years. Okay. When it comes to relationships, like 2 weeks to them is like 2 months. Uh, 2 months is already like 10 months. That is just how their brain works. So if you talk to them and you say, "How long have you guys been, seeing each other?" And gosh, we've been, for 2 months. Like it's like a big deal to them. Like, man, this is the longest relationship I've ever been in. So remember that, okay? So when you're talking with your teen and now they're spending more and more time with this person, now whose house do they want to be at the most? All right. Here's a red flag. Here's a warning sign that you need to think about. Is it your house and why? Why is it that they want to be at your house the most? What are the boundaries that you have or you don't have? If they want to be at the other person's house, why? What are those boundaries that they have or don't have? So that's what you need to be thinking about, okay? Have a conversation with that. So, what kind of things do you guys get to do or like to do when you're at Susie's house? What kind of things do you guys do when you're at Johnny's house? Have it real lighthearted, the conversation, so that they'll want to talk with you. If they get defensive right away, too, and you know that you are not being like defensive or mad or angry, that in itself is a warning sign, okay, that maybe the relationship is getting a little too heated for even where they kind of want it to go, where it's getting a little scary, but they're just not sure, but they still are pressing and pushing it to that edge and to the limit. So again, that's why I'm telling you it's really important for you to have a conversation with your teen. What are your boundaries? What is it that you would want for them in a dating relationship? All right? Because if you haven't told them, then how are they supposed to know? All right? So then they're left to figure it out for themselves, and then they're just going to do stuff, and then they're going to decide what they want to do. They might have a boundary within themselves, but as they get into a relationship with someone that maybe pushes their boundary and doesn't respect their boundary, then a lot of times, then their boundary may have been here and now it got pushed from that person that they really like, and now their boundary's right here. So it's like, oh, okay, well, then they start to just push away and then they don't even have a boundary anymore. All right. So really just think about that. All right. So what are those little things? I'd like for you to put in the chat what your boundaries are with your teen, if you have any, or if you have talked with your teen, you can put that in the chat. And how did that conversation go? So if you watch this video and then you have a conversation about boundaries with your teenager, about dating with your teenager, put it in the chat too, because I absolutely would love to hear how the conversation went. If you need some little bit more starters to get the conversation rolling, please put that in the chat because I'm here to help you. Okay. You got a teenager. I am here to help you with that. And I just want you to think about those things again. Okay. Put that in the chat. Some of the things that maybe it triggered into your own little head for you as the parent. All right. With your teenager. And maybe your thought of like, wow, I never even thought to have a conversation with my teen about dating and guidelines and boundaries and what things to say. One thing that you do want to say and the word you want to stay away from is the word rules. These are the dating rules. You don't really want to say that word because, again, instantly it's like, don't tell me about the rules. I don't want to know the rules. because that's an instant, especially if your teen is a little bit defiant, okay, that is instantly going to trigger up. "Mm, rules are meant to be broken, aren't they?" Ha ha. To where that they're going to be, kind of pushing those rules that you have. But when they're boundaries, when they're guidelines, when it's stated that way, it kind of means the same thing, okay? But it's not necessarily taken as harshly. So they will receive that a whole lot better. And then you sit down and you have these boundaries and these guidelines that you will set together, okay? Especially if your teen is like, hey, 18. I mean, hey, I know some people are like, well, they're 18 now, but they're still in school. So I don't even have any boundaries. I don't have any rules rules for my teenager. I don't have anything because they are a legal adult. But hey, if they're living in your home and they are not graduated, even if they're way older than that, right? And they're living in your home, it's still your home. Okay. What are the boundaries for your home? So that doesn't mean that your boundaries and your own guidelines need to change because your teen wants to live it up and do something different now that they are not um, 14 anymore. All right. So I just want to throw that in as a little bonus for you. So that's what I want to talk to you today about. And again, let me know in the chat what you think. All right. And if you have other videos that you'd like to watch and like for me to make, because again, I am here for you. And I'd love to hear what you think about this video and about other videos. And there's definitely more to come. So I will see you in the next video. And wait. Okay. I will see you soon. All right.